Who hasn't been there? Sitting comfortably at home deciding to watch an adrenaline-fueled action movie with friends. There's one essential component of any blockbuster though, and that's well-choreographed fight scenes, whether it be a fistfight, a gunfight, or a mixture of the two. So in today's original, we introduce you to the by far 10 best fights in movie history. So grab your popcorn and let's go! With Marvel movies, you're more used to epic CG-packed battles than brutal hand-to-hand fighting for life and death. But 2014's Captain America the Winter Soldier quickly proved us wrong, because Marvel not only provided badass action in the film, but also a top-notch meme template that has enjoyed great popularity ever since. What at first seems like a normal elevator ride quickly turns out to be a big ambush as Captain America has to deal with several opponents at once in the tightest of spaces. In best close combat technique, he takes out one after the other only to be surprised by a special unit in front of the elevator shortly before the end. So the only way left is through a glass wall, followed by a rather painful impact. A truly enthralling scene, especially considering that Captain America has to fight the big adversary group in such a confined space. With his movie Gladiator from the year 2000, Ridley Scott created a real masterpiece. As a gladiator, the main character Maximus is of course often led to his own devices, but the following scene is really wonderful to watch. In a gladiator fight, he not only has to fight the strong tigress of Gaul, but he also has to confront the tigers chained all around him. Like every good fight, this one has perfectly practiced fight scenes and of course a victorious Maximus at the end of the day. A truly worthy exhibition fight for an already epic film. Oldboy from 2003 is a thrilling revenge thriller that heats up considerably towards the end. One scene, however, lingers in every viewer's mind, and that's when main character Odesum, armed only with a hammer, fights his way through a corridor full of merciless enemies, eventually even with a knife in his back. Pretty impressive how he manages to keep getting back on his feet against a horde of almost 24 enemies, taking them out one by one. It's almost a bit reminiscent of John Wick, isn't it? And of course, John Wick, aka Baba Yaga, should not be missing from this list. In part 3 from 2019, especially the fight scene from the glass room sticks in mind. Surrounded by countless skulls, the opponents are in for a brutal fight against the professional killer. He cleverly uses his fragile surroundings to his advantage and shows no mercy, in particular after he has picked up his weapon. Even though he himself is thrown through the glass cabinets often enough, he still holds the upper hand in this fight for life and death. Not less impressive is one of the struggles at the beginning, where he has to defend himself against even more adversaries. Fortunately, he is surrounded by numerous knives and blades during this scene and, as can be seen, he's able to throw them quite well. The highlight is unquestionably at the end of the scene, because damn, that really hit the eye. The Indonesian film The Raid 2 is packed with action from front to back anyway, but one scene stands out among all the other fights. Meant is of course the famous kitchen scene near the end, which is described by many as the best choreographed fight in film history for a good reason. The merging of vision, sound, and above all, emotion is what makes the 10-minute long sequence so unique. Main character Rama gets to deal with his former friend Uku and completely tears apart the kitchen in the process. Every blow and each evasive action is so perfectly coordinated that you can't help but be amazed. Rama then delivers the finishing blow to his old companion with a karambit knife. Leading actor Iko Uwais remembers the shooting of the scene very clearly, since the entire team worked on this moment for over half a year to ensure that everything was perfect. To then find the right camera angle for the respective move almost resembles a masterstroke. In our opinion, it was definitely worth it in the end, because this scene is truly an outstanding piece of film history. In the monster movie King Kong from 2005, the giant ape has to deal with not just one, but 3 T-Rexes. In a nearly 7-minute long scene, Kong does everything he can to avoid leaving Andorra to the ravenous dinosaurs. This is followed by spectacular moves and a really not to be envied protagonist, because whiplash is definitely inevitable here. After defeating his last enemy, the gorilla briefly tries his skills as an oral surgeon and enjoys the virtual applause of the audience with some vigorous pounding on his chest. Andy Serkis, who convincingly brings out King Kong's emotions with the help of motion capture, obviously contributed greatly to the scene. Deservedly, the film also won an award for Best Visual Effects at the Oscars. Even today, you can watch the scene, which is over 15 years old, without being reminded that a lot has changed in terms of CGI and computer effects in the meanwhile. The 1981 classic Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark proves that you don't always need green screen and the latest technology for spectacular fights. Jones has to deal with a giant who would probably have broken the archaeologist in two inside of a boxing ring. But Jones, of course, also knows how to make clever use of his surroundings and deals with his opponent not only with kicks to the abdomen but also with dry desert sand in the eyes. Luckily, the Wehrmacht realized the whole spectacle rather late, which is why Indiana Jones has plenty of time to hunt down the giant with a little support. Shortly before Jones and his female companion escape, the giant learns in a rather unpleasant way why one should never look at a rotating airplane propeller up close. The action-packed exit of the two is then topped off by a lovely explosion. Christian Bale and Liam Neeson give us an equally adrenaline-filled fight scene in the 2005 film Batman Begins. The conflict between Bruce Wayne and Ra's al Ghul takes place on a moving train and is perfectly staged by director Christopher Nolan. While Gordon is awkwardly attempting to give Batman an advantage with his Batmobile, he blows up a bridge pillar, which means certain death for all occupants in case it crashes. Since Batman's moral code forbids killing his opponent, he decides to save himself just before the wagon falls, leaving Al Ghul behind, as it is not against his principles not to save someone. The sequence ends with a spectacular crash of the train and a triumphant Batman gliding through Gotham City thereafter. Freddy vs. Jason from 2003 is the only one in this list to belong to the horror genre, but it is by no means less action-packed than other movies. The battle between the two horror icons Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees is initially slow to get started. This changes abruptly when actress Laurie manages to lure the two evil creatures to Crystal Lake by means of a trick. This is where the trouble really begins. The physically superior Jason makes Freddy look like a complete fool at the beginning of the fight and gives him a hard time in the burning hut. A ruthless fight develops between the two icons, though ultimately it's not really clear which one of the two will emerge victorious. In the end, both seem to have somehow won and lost at the same time. Nevertheless, this fight is really something to behold. With superpowers, it's of course much easier to fight through huge hordes of enemies. That's certainly what Thor actor Chris Hemsworth must have thought in Thor Ragnarok, as his character effortlessly finds his way forward bit by bit on a footbridge after activating his superpowers. Meanwhile, Led Zeppelin's Immigrant Song plays and you don't even know which way to look anymore. In the end, Loki was most certainly grateful for the friendly support. Which fight do you think is missing, and should we take a closer look at battles from movies like Lord of the Rings and Avengers Endgame? Please let us know in the comments